Welcome to the Kingsford Flivver Flash. I'm Coach Van Duzen. This is season 22, episode 5. We sit down with soon-to-be Eagle Scout Michael Floriano. We all probably know kids who were in the Boy Scouts when we were younger, but it's not as common to see people who stick it out, especially through high school and especially to make Eagle Scout. It's exactly what Michael Floriano did. He is a junior at Kingsford High School. He's going to be playing varsity football this year, and let's go see what he has to say. All right, Michael. Well, thanks for coming on the show here.
Well, thanks for having me.
This is pretty cool. So, tell us first, just kind of your history through going through grade school, going through middle school, going through high school. Just tell us, who is Michael Floriano?
Yeah, so I started off downstate, just preschool, nothing too serious, and then we moved up here, going into my first year of kindergarten, and I hated my parents for it. I wanted to go back home. Well, now this is home, but I hated them. I threatened that I wanted to go play for Iron Mountain because I was so mad, and now I look back and see how foolish I was. But started kindergarten here and just trucked along through Woodland and middle school, and now I'm going into my junior year of high school.
Yeah, so throughout that time, and I'm glad you didn't go play for Iron Mountain, by the way. Yeah. Throughout that time, like, what kind of things did you like to do with your friends? You know, were you in sports, or did you guys play games, ride bikes? Like, what kind of things did you do as a kid?
When I was little, I used to ride bikes around all the time. I lived with my grandparents before we got my current house, so I was right in town and get a couple buddies, go ride bikes, go get ice cream, all that good stuff. I started playing tackle football when I was in 5th grade and haven't stopped since. I do track, started that my 7th grade year, then we had COVID, so I didn't do anything my 8th grade year, and then picked it up again freshman year.
Yeah, and your freshman year, we'll talk about that for a second, was like the COVID year.
Yeah.
And we only had 3 games. I had Lance Harry on a podcast just a couple of while back, and we just talked about, we got to play Marquette at home, which was a hot mess, or Marquette there, which was even a hotter mess. And then Bark Rivers. Tell us about that, because that was kind of like your first exposure to high school football, but it was just a wreck with the COVID stuff. Talk to us about your freshman year a little bit.
Yeah, so first day showing up for 2-a-days, I was very giddy and like, oh, I can't wait to actually start this. Like, let's get going. Everyone's pumped up. My friend Cardell's got music blaring in the locker room, and we get out there and start warming up, and we're getting ready. And then we see coaches bring out the yellow jerseys, and we're like, oh my God, we have to wear those. And all the seniors and juniors were calling us bumblebees because of that bright yellow jersey fabric, and we were just like, ugh. But we grew accustomed to them. Let's see. First game was Marquette. We went up there. We were down bad at the half. I mean, we were like, just
hold on before you even get there. And I talked with Lance on this same exact game.
Yeah.
And by the time we got to the field, because you guys all had to put these splash shields on your helmets.
Yeah, that was super weird. Like, with
and the bus
ties
was late, and we were wearing gaiters, but we're getting yelled at because we weren't wearing them with our mouth guards in. Yeah. We had about 12 minutes to warm up. So when you say we were down at half, that is an understatement, because we played exactly like we just got off the bus, because we kind of did, and nobody had knee pads, and there was stuff. Oh my gosh. If you go back and listen to the other podcast with Lance, like, he comes running up to me. He's like, Coach, I lost my helmet. I'm like, did it come off the bus? He goes, yeah, I had it when I came on the field. And you look like it couldn't have left the field. So I had to just add that little bit, because even before halftime, we were just a hot mess getting off the bus. So keep going, because you had a couple of big plays in that game.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't even know how to warm up. I had my shoulder pads on, and then later I was told I shouldn't have my shoulder pads on when I'm warming up. And I'm like, I didn't know that. No one told me anything. Jammed my finger in warm-ups, so that was fun. Just shaking it on the sidelines. I received the kick and started running down the sidelines. I'm like, oh, all right. And then the first time I've actually ever felt the snot come out of my nose, some kid, I think it was 22 from Marquette, their short little linebacker, running back type guy, just and slow motion, basically just, oh,
That's awesome.
It was eye opening, and I was like, oh, okay, right. People actually tackle now. This isn't youth football. We gotta step up the pace here.
And you had 2 touchdowns on that game, and I believe Cardell had 1.
Yeah.
So talk to us a little bit about that. I remember the play call I made on that first touchdown, and I was a little nervous about it, but you turned it into a TD.
Let's see. I think my first touchdown was actually the scoop and score when Eli Wallace knocked it out from actually now one of my good friends from Marquette, Adam Duvall. And Cardell was trailing me running to the house after that. And that kind of set us into motion. Now we're like, all right, we got a touchdown. We're ready to go. I think it was a 2-point conversion or a touchdown. I can't remember, but it was just a quick little right to the left side of the field and
bubble screen.
Yeah. And it was like 5 yards and there was no one there. I kind of just like waltzed in, and that was nice.
Yeah, I remember that was a 2-point conversion, but we called a bubble screen, and I believe it was about 40 yards out, but you took it and were able to evade a few tacklers and use your speed to take everybody all the way to the end zone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's how a lot of everyone's plays, I feel like me and Cardell, I mean, we use our speed as best as we can to our advantages. That's how most of our touchdowns came around that year, was just from blowing by people.
Right. And that game, and we've talked about it on this podcast a couple times, but we were down 21-0 at the half.
Yeah.
And we came back to win 22-21, or it was 22-20.
Yeah.
At the end. So that was just a great game for your first game as a freshman to realize the game is never over, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure there was people in the stands and probably people on the team that are like, oh, well, it's going to be a long bus ride back, but you guys battled back.
A couple of us that were thinking that. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the big reasons we have you on this podcast is to talk about your going to be an Eagle Scout. You've completed all the requirements to be an Eagle Scout except for the Eagle Board. And the last big hurdle is your Eagle Project, which you just got completed just a few weeks ago. So, which is a really great honor. Congratulations on that. And please talk to us a little bit about your journey through the Boy Scouts, because becoming an Eagle Scout isn't something you decide you want to do and 2 years later you're an Eagle Scout. It's a long process. You usually start when you're 5 or 6 years old and finish when you're 16, 17, 18 years old. So talk to us about your Boy Scout journey.
Yeah, I started Cub Scouts a year late. So Cub Scouts is for like elementary school little kids that just want to go experience the outdoors or whatever it entails. It's been years now, but I started off a year early, and I was like, I have no clue what's going on. Everyone already has friends, because none of my friends were in the Cub Scout troop. It was all kids from like Norway, Florence, Iron Mountain. And I just kind of felt like the ugly duckling sitting there like, oh my God, what's happening? And so our first meeting, it was like a big pack meeting. So there's Tiger Scouts, which were the youngest, Bear Scouts, Wolf Scouts, and then Webelos. And I was sitting with the Bear Scouts the second years, because I didn't even know I could do like a Tiger Scout thing. It wasn't given to me as like an option. And we had, I think it was Dr. Hall come in. So my very first ever pack meeting. And he's telling us that what it takes to get through Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts and become an Eagle Scout. And when he was talking about that and orthodontist and I was like, hey, this guy looks pretty good. Like I could try and be an Eagle Scout, not knowing what was ahead. But I was like, you know what? I'm gonna shoot for that. We'll see if it happens. And then went through Cub Scouts, which Cub Scouts is kind of like kindergarten just for Boy Scouts. I mean, you show up to a meeting, you craft something, or you draw something, and it doesn't start getting serious until your last year, which is Below 2. They break it up into 2 years, where you work on your arrow of light, which is you becoming a Boy Scout and going into a Boy Scout troop, which is completely different from your Cub Scout troops. And that was a little more serious. So we went to a summer camp every year, and they have like fun games and areas to go to. And at the end of the week campfire, they take all the Below 2s deep into the woods and sit them around a campfire. And they have a counselor dress up as an Indian chief. And they go through this whole ceremony of, you're going to become, a bit more manly now, a bit boyish, if you will, from prepubescent to getting the gains. But, and they give you a hawk feather, because they can't give you an eagle feather, but they give you a hawk feather to represent you flying through the ranks. And then you leave and you're not allowed to talk until you get back to your campsite. And that was when I was like, oh my God, this is a little more serious than I thought it was going to be. And I showed up for my first Boy Scout meeting in Kingsford, and I stayed there for a year. And it wasn't a bad troop. I just knew a couple more people at the Norway troop, like Nolan White, and he was a really good friend of mine, still is. I don't know why I said that in the past tense, and so I moved to the Norway troop and made a lot more closer friends there. So that's where I've been the last couple of years, and just working through the ranks. The worst part is just the time that it takes, because you can get all your requirements done for like the lower ranks of Boy Scouts, like Scout, first class, tenderfoot, second class, and you can get all the ranks done, and you still have to wait like 6 months before you can go up a rank. And I kind of got just bored, because at Norway, we would just go through requirements super quickly and study them the next meeting, making sure we actually had everything down pat. And then I just had to wait around and wait for me to be able to graduate. And that was probably the worst part, especially because the higher rank you get, the more you have to wait before you can graduate. And so just waiting for life to turn into Eagle, I mean, I still had stuff to keep me busy, especially my project. But even then, I was just like, all right, I'm ready to get trucking along here. I'm ready to try for my Eagle. And my Scoutmaster was like, I was just like you, but you still got to wait like everyone had to. And I was like, okay, that's fine. It's cool. I can wait. Just, it's not my favorite thing in the world.
Well, and it's interesting. And I remember the same thing. And I think that's on purpose.
Yeah.
It might not have been on purpose when they started it, but especially in the way the world is now, everything is 140 characters. It happens right now, right? I can DoorDash food. It'll be here in 10 minutes. But the Eagle Scout is something I always said it was the first long-term goal that I ever set and was able to achieve. I had a short-term goal. I want to do this. 3 weeks later, I got it, right? But this is one of those things that you can't do that. I want to talk about your project in a minute, but I want to ask you if you had a similar situation where as you start moving up the ranks, especially when you go like on campouts, were you ever at the point where you're able to look at the younger scouts and, or maybe even your brother, because he's in the Cub Scouts now, and kind of smile or reminisce about like watching them put up a tent and it's just garbage, and you're able to laugh and be like, you know what, I used to set up tents like that. Was there any kind of situations like that?
There's been quite a few. I mean, we take Andrew on all of the Boy Scout outings because, you know, my dad's in the troop, he's an adult leader and I'm there. So it was Andrew's first year of like actual like getting into Boy Scouts, and he was trying to set up a tent, but he had my dad helping him, so it kind of went a lot more better than when him and I were first setting up a tent together. But my dad just, Andrew, you got to grab the pole and you got to do this correctly, and he was like on the verge of tears, and my dad wasn't like screaming at him or anything. It's just he felt stupid, and which was understandable. I mean, trying to put a tent up for the first time is not easy, especially when you don't have like anyone like, okay, buddy, here, just put the pole through the loop, and then you gotta. And my dad just wanted to go sit around the campfire and make s'mores, and I think Andrew like sat down halfway through making the tent and just was like, I'm gonna take a break, I'm tired. And yeah, it was funny. And there's a couple younger kids that we have now that ask me questions like some kids were going not for an Eagle board of review, but just for like a Scout board of review, but with just adult leaders within the troop. And they're like, Michael, what are they going to ask me? Like, what's going to happen? Like, what are they going to, and I'm like, slow your roll, look through your book, and it'll walk you through everything. Because I know I was the younger Scout once, and we had two older Scouts, the Bowser boys, Cody and Matthew, and they were great with the younger kids, including myself. I was kind of in the middle, not super young, but not like old enough to be like, hey guys, this is what you got to do. But they were great with the younger guys, just helping us along and showing us what to do. And I like to think that I try and copy them a little bit and do exactly what they did, but I'm not as good of a teacher as they were. But yeah, there's just multiple instances with the little guys that are just like, what's going on?
You know, and I remember distinctly when I was a Scout out in Idaho, I remember being on kind of like the younger side, and we had the older boys. And for some reason, like the younger kids, we were always working our butts off and doing dishes and this, that. And it's like the older guys, they never had any dishes to do. They never had anything, right? And as I got older, I realized they were so much better. Like I remember this one trip, we were going to cook spaghetti.
Oh,
well,
God.
when you camp out in it, you know, up in the mountains, like that's a huge pain to boil the water, which I'm sure we never got hot enough, right? We didn't rinse the noodles, so we ended up like these noodle balls, and like you had to cut them with a knife, whatever. And as I got older, I remember like seeing the younger Scouts trying to struggle, and kind of like what you were talking about, like trying to be that teacher, like, hey, so you can do this cool thing called a tinfoil dinner, and the only waste you have is this little ball of tinfoil, which when you're done, you just ball it up and throw it in your pack. There's no cleanup. And setting up the tents and whatnot. I remember James and I came out to one of your Cub Scout compounds.
Yeah.
And he was all excited to go in the canoe. Well, it was him and I think Andrew and one other kid, and they came back, and James's pole was busted, and they had a couple of fish, but they fell out of the canoe, and they're trying to get them on shore. And but that's all part of it, right? Like all the younger Scouts kind of go through that to graduate to the point where they can sit around the fire, and we don't have any dishes because we're smarter than that. So tell us a little bit about your Eagle Scout project. And for those that are not familiar with the Boy Scouts, all through you have community service projects, but when you do your Eagle project, that is where you are expected to not work on it yourself necessarily, but actually coordinate all of the different resources and all of the different people to help. And that's where you really take on that leadership role, which is your final project before you're actual an Eagle Scout. So talk to us about your project, what you did, and kind of the challenges and things you learned along the way.
Yeah, so I touched up on the memorial for Tom King, who was the last Indian chief of the Badwater Band of Chippewa Indians. And yes, that's the full title. And I was contacted by, well, my dad and I were contacted by some guys from the road commission who were like, we want to do something with this. We just don't have the funds for it. So if anyone's looking for like an Eagle Scout project within the local troops, and we offered it to, we offered it to a couple older guys, and they were all like, nah, I'll come up with something, or I already got something figured out. And so when it was my time to start swinging the bat, I was like, I mean, we might as well go check it out, see what's going on. And so we met with a couple guys from the road commission and Bill Verrett from Champion Concrete, who first put the memorial there, and just spitballing ideas, kind of what they had in mind. And they basically told me, you can do whatever you want with it, just make it look better than it is. It was just a concrete slab with a plaque sticking out of the ground and 2 benches. I was like, all right, I think I can make this just a little bit better than 2 benches and a concrete slab. And so my dad is friends with Carl from KCD Landscaping, and Carl came out and was like, all right, we can do this, and we decided on putting some pavers down in a wall around the monument. And as we're getting that squared away, we're like, hey, we have a lot of leftover pavers. So we added a little seating area to the left side of it. There's a medicine wheel in the center of the monument, which the Chippewa Indians have on like flags and stuff on their reservations. And it dates back to before any explorer came to America. So it's very ancient. And we poured that in concrete. We almost screwed it up, but at the last second, I was talking with my dad, and we realized that the medicine wheel points a certain direction. So like, white is north, and we almost just had that facing straight towards the plaque. And I was holding out a compass, and I was like, that is west. We probably should put the north thing facing west. And so we scribbled it down with some permanent marker on the concrete where we needed everything poured. But that would have sucked if we had to chisel all the concrete out, and would not have been fun. Then we have some mountain ash trees, and I screwed that up on the interview for TV6. I said mountain aspen somehow, but mountain ash trees, which is a tree that is near and dear to the Chippewa tribe, and we have that one on each side of the monument. And 2 bald eagles that are perched looking in at the picture of Tom King on the plaque for him, which an eagle is very religious for any Indian tribe throughout America. People can get fines for touching a feather that they find on the ground. So we have bald eagles, the trees, and the medicine wheel just kind of like bringing more into like the Chippewa Indian side of Tom King's life.
That's awesome. And I didn't realize you had worked with the road commission on that. Have you had any interaction with the native tribes in the area having redone this memorial?
No. So what we actually contact the Chippewa tribe like headquarters down in Lansing around in that area, and they were like, we had a tribe up there, and we were like, oh God, what did we screw up? And so what they said is that they think that the Chippewa tribe on Badwater was like absorbed by a different tribe, but the last official Chippewa leader was Tom King, and that's like the only interaction we had with any Native Americans. And no one really reached out. I mean, we had like historical guys throughout the community that were giving us like links to websites and books to read to touch up on the history, and that's where we got some of the ideas for the trees and the medicine wheel.
Interesting. And it's, when you look back at the history of tribes, sometimes that happened where one tribe was kind of absorbed into another, or one went to battle and was kind of wiped out, so had to find a new home. That's super interesting. And you have, Tom King Creek is right there by Randville, by the memorial. That's super interesting. And we could go on for hours and hours because I find it fascinating. However, we have about 5 minutes left here. So this is a football podcast. And although we are here celebrating your Eagle Scout, which I'm really excited to see you go through your Eagle board, let's talk just a couple minutes of football. You're coming into your junior year. Tell us kind of like what you're excited about.
I'm excited to see how fast football can actually get, because everyone I've ever talked to is like, yeah, you think it gets pretty fast when you get to like your JV year, and then you step on to the field for your first varsity game and you're like, holy crap. So I'm kind of excited to see how fast everything's gonna be, because I have no clue what speed it's gonna be at. I mean, I could get out there and completely get dogged on, or I could get out there and be like, okay, I can compete with this. Yeah, that's computer's running low on battery.
Oops.
Yeah, I thought it was plugged in. Let me check it really quick.
Yeah, we'll finish up quick here. And kind of on the speed while Michael's fixing his computer that is absolutely true, especially if you're in the stands and you watch, say, a junior high game, and then a freshman game, and then a JV game, then a varsity game. And let's say on Saturday you go watch Northern play. Everybody's doing the same thing, right? You have down blocks, you have kickouts, you have zone blocks. Everybody's doing the same thing, but the speed at which it happens is amazing. And as long as you stick with those fundamentals, you'll be good. And I'm excited to watch, because this Flivver team we have coming up has a lot of speed on it. So I think we'll be able to use that to our advantage for sure. So last question I ask almost every person who's been playing Flivver football at all is, what advice do you have for those young freshmen? I've been getting a lot of text messages and a lot of emails from players and parents. Everybody's really excited. So as those freshmen step onto the field for the first time, and we're all wearing the same shirt and whatnot, and they got to warm up with the varsity, what advice do you have for those young Flivvers coming up through the program?
Well, when we first came into my freshman year, it was COVID, so everyone was kind of lackadaisical. No one's really lifting because no one wants to get COVID or anything, and that kind of hurt us, like everyone, in the long run, because now there's a lot of kids that still brush it off like, oh, we didn't lift going into our freshman year, so it's whatever. Just put in the work. That's my thing. I mean, weight room rise, I'm probably not the best guy to be talking about that, but if a coach offers like, hey, you want to come to camp or you want to come throwing with us, like go to that. I remember after my freshman year, I went to a couple camps in Green Bay, and that really helped me with my footwork, because my freshman year, I struggled with that a lot, not knowing that I was even false stepping coming out of my wideout stance, and juking and making cuts and stuff that I would have never picked up if I hadn't gone to these camps or trained with older guys at the time. So it just listen to your coaches. If they want you or ask you to come do something, go do it. Get your name out there, kind of thing.
That's great advice. And I will go back almost every time to Brody Kopp. His junior varsity year, he played fullback, he played tailback, he played wideout, he played tight end. I think he was even slated to go in at guard a few times, just because with different kids getting hurt and needing different things on the field. And not once did he ever complain or say, Coach, I need to carry the ball. Nope. He was, you want me to be a guard? Awesome. What do I do? So that's really great advice. Of whatever your coach asks of you, just do it. And whether that's going to a camp, whether that's helping out, maybe a new kid moves to the school, right? We need to win in the classroom, and hey, come with me. I'm going to show you how to get to math class. Come with me. I'll sit with me at lunch. You know, those simple things. So that was awesome. Well, this has been a great conversation. I'm really excited to talk with you more off the podcast about your Eagle Scout project. And I know your dad's really excited. And I have a couple of notes here. If you check back on season 20, episode 14 of the Kingsford Flivver Flash, you can see Mike Floriano, Michael's dad, and him and I were talking about youth football. And then you and Andrew also made an appearance on episode 21, season 21, episode 8 of the youth camp, where you were actually working the youth camp and Andrew is going through it. And actually on that little interview, when he knocks you over, that's what broke one of my microphones. Oh, so just a fun little trivia fact there, but we're going to run out of time on this. So we're going to say goodnight. And Michael, I want to say thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely excited to see what happens over the next couple of years.
Yeah.
Sounds good. We'll talk to you later.
Yes, sir.
That was Michael Floriano, and what a fine young man. We're lucky to have him here at the Flivver Nation. Thank you, Michael. In other news, this weekend is Flivverfest, so you can check Facebook for more details, but Friday and Saturday down at Lodall Park, they have cornhole tournaments, they have live music, food, drink, class reunions. It's a really great time. So if you're around the Iron Mountain Kingsford area this weekend, please check out Flivverfest. And as always, win in the classroom, win in the community, and win on the field.